So I think to start off, the best thing is if you could tell me who you are.
My name is Laura McInerney and I'm the CEO of Teacher Tapp.
Fantastic. And I suppose the question everyone will have is, what is Teacher Tapp?
Oh, are you sure everyone will? Because I think some people will know, but if you don't, then Teacher Tapp is a survey app that surveys teachers every day. So they have it on their phone, it pings once per day, and then it gives them about 3 questions. They answer the questions and they get to see the results from the day before. There's a little bit of gamification, there's some badges available, and there's a daily read on the final page. But otherwise, that's it. It takes about a minute and a half, but teachers love it. And we've now got about 9,000 users every day. And the things they say they love about it is that they enjoy answering the questions, it makes them think. They love seeing the answers because they're often spending lots of their day on their own, so they don't get to see what happens in other classrooms, schools. And also, they really appreciate having one thing to read a day. 2 to 3 minutes that helps them get better at their job, but isn't, you're not going to have to scroll through loads and loads of social media to make it happen.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, you show the teachers who've answered questions all of the results, and you include a link to some learning or blogs. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So there's one blog every day. It's just one, curated and picked for you.
Fantastic. In the time that you've been running Teacher Tapp, which is a few years now in the UK, which has been your favourite result? What's the output that you've had from it that's been most exciting or surprising or interesting?
So there's a difference there. There's my favourite result, and then there's the one that's had the most surprising and interesting output. So I'll give you my most favourite question is the one we asked on New Year's Day, or we asked on New Year's Day a couple of years ago, which was, imagine you're walking down the street and a genie appears. You can have one of 3 wishes. Would you like to have, number 1, total well-being for you and your colleagues? Number 2, top exam results for every child in your school? Or number 3, £1 million in your bank? And if you ask a room full of teachers this, very few people put their hands up for the £1 million. Yet when you ask on an app, what you find is around 75% of teachers will pick the £1 million. And my co-founder, Professor Becky Allen, she comes from an economics background, and her question was, who were the 25% who didn't take the £1 million in their bank? But it was seen as quite a shocking result. So that was my favourite result. And then in terms of the impact, we've actually had lots of different ones. There's been things that government ministers have talked about, big policy changes. But my favourite was a teacher who ran up to me at a conference. She said, "Thank you so much for Teacher Tapp." We took the finding that over half of schools don't have to pay for their hot drinks to our head teacher because we had to pay tea and coffee in our staff room. And we thought it was completely unfair. And when we showed them that actually loads of other schools got it for free, they gave us free tea and coffee. So somewhere out there, there's someone having a brew on Teacher Tapp.
I'm amazed that you would make teachers pay for tea and coffee. You started this 2 or 3 years ago. You're up to something like 10,000 teachers. Is that about right?
Yeah, so we're about 9,000 teachers now. And I have to say that I've just noticed the date. And this time 3 years ago, I was actually lying in hospital with sepsis, nearly dying. We just about 4 days earlier set up what was going to become Teacher Tapp. And then, my body decided to try and off me. And then when it didn't manage, the nice thing was I had a whole summer in which I was recuperating and we were able to plan and develop the app. So in some ways, it was great.
And what's next for the app? So 10,000 teachers in the UK is fantastic. Where are you going next? And what are the challenges with that expansion?
One of the things that people have said all along is, well, can we go to other countries? And that would be amazing because there's a lot of questions that we get answers to. And we think, well, that's just how teaching is. But what if actually it turns out that maths teachers answer these questions completely differently in another country? You can't just say then, oh, that's how maths teachers are. So we've already launched Teacher Tapp Ghana. That's piloting at the moment and is off. We've also launched Teacher Tapp Netherlands. So we've now got Dutch speakers on the app and tweeting me in Dutch, which is amazing. It's sort of, I can never quite, it sort of sounds a bit like Geordie half the time, mixed with some different letters, but it's amazing, so exciting to see the questions in another language. And obviously we'd look to do more countries and expansions in the future, as well as the fact that we're about to launch in a couple of weeks' time Parent Ping, which
Ooh.
is going to be something related to parents.
Now, I will let slip that me and Dan developed the very first version of Teacher Tapp, but I know nothing about Parent Ping. I've not been involved with it at all. What is Parent Ping?
I mean, it's very, very similar to Teacher Tapp. So the same concept, and at the moment it's just in development. We're just starting to test it, but the aim should be that parents will be able to do the same thing. So answer some questions, see what other people find, see what other people are saying, and read something very simple every day. And as a parent, it's really difficult. You don't always know what other people are doing. You don't always want to ask. You don't want to get into these kind of competitive WhatsApp groups where you ask somebody about what are you doing on lockdown, and the next thing you know, you've got 53 pictures from somebody who's got amazing timetables everywhere, and she's done gingerbread cookies, and some bloke who's cooking with his kids. You just want something very simple, and that's what we're hoping that Parent Ping will be.
I suppose that's like your earlier point around teachers lying or being sociable and saying they wouldn't take £1 million when really they would take £1 million, right? And probably the public persona of parents is quite different to just trying to make sure that their kids are out the door at 8:30.
Well, exactly. And then there's really tricky questions like, how much money is the tooth fairy? And I know that sounds really simple, but you don't want to overshoot the first time and then find out that everybody in the other class, wasn't giving away pound coins. But you also don't want to be too stingy. If you start asking people, then everyone's got to look as if they're giving lots of money away. So I think there's some really interesting, tiny little things that we can work on, and they don't sound important to begin with. But like with the tea and coffee, that can make quite a big difference to teacher morale and well-being, and that's one of the things we were focused on. Likewise with parenting, you just don't know what will make people feel better, more confident, and more interested in becoming a better parent until we start asking the questions.
Fantastic. And the last thing I want to talk about is the blog. So the data that you collect is extremely personal. So you can't publish the data, it's individual teachers' data. But you do publish a blog relatively often with results. What does that involve, and what kind of readership do you think you get on that blog?
On the blog. So important point there, the statistics that we provide and the kind of the graphics and the results that we're sharing are at that top aggregate level. So we're not sharing individuals' data. But what happens is, so my co-founder and actually the person who came up with the idea initially is Professor Becky Allen. As I said, she's an economist by background, also an amazing quantitative researcher. I mean, you've met her, Tom. She's amazingly impressive. And so what happens each week is Becky looks back over what we've been learning and curates the best findings, develops graphs, and puts those findings out to the world. It has been on Mondays, it's going to be on Tuesdays going forwards. And those then get picked up by journalists, by education policymakers. We made a lot of our data initially when COVID was happening. We made a lot of it as open as we could in terms of those aggregate results. And that meant that decisions could be taken at the highest level based on up-to-date information, which otherwise just wouldn't have been available. So I have to say the blog is very much Becky's genius. And then other people who are the geniuses that make things work in the country tend to read it. And overall, the nice thing is it means you're helping people from biscuits right through to decisions around, for instance, the tuition next year that's happening in schools. We ask questions around that. We ask questions around when kids should be going back. Government doesn't always listen, but at least we've got the data.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, Laura. So my first question for you, Amber, is can you introduce yourself so that our audience at Northernlands 2 know who you are?
I can. My name is Amber Walraven. I am an assistant professor at the Radboud University, at the ITE of the Radboud University, called the Radboud Docenten Academy or the Radboud Teachers Academy. And I teach general didactics there, and I'm also currently running research project where we involve Teacher Tapp. So we brought Teacher Tapp to the Netherlands, and I'm running that platform in the Netherlands at the moment.
Excellent. So we spoke to Laura with Teacher Tapp in the UK earlier. She was telling us about how they have sometimes 10,000 teachers answering their questions. How many teachers do you have answering your questions at the moment in the Netherlands?
Well, we've only been running for 4 weeks with a small test group. So at the moment we have between 60 and 80
Wow.
people answering. So
It's
that's
a lot
a long
more
way to
than
go.
we had after 4 weeks in the UK.
Sorry?
After 4 weeks in the UK, we did not have 60 people.
Okay.
It was still just Laura's friends, really, and Becky's friends. And even with just 60 people, have you had any interesting results yet from Teacher Tapp?
Of course, I think every result is interesting. I look forward to the results every day. But I think the question we had the most, what do you call it? A response that's been given by the largest group of people is about whether it would help to receive a bonus to go to work in a school in a part of your town that's what's the English word? It's Friday afternoon, and I'm searching for my word.
Deprived, perhaps.
Deprived. That's what
Yes.
I mean. We had a sum of money. Our government said we need to do something about our 4 large cities, which have a teacher shortage, a big teacher shortage. How can we get the people to go to work in our 4 big cities? And one of our cities, Amsterdam, said, let's give teachers a bonus. And we asked our participants about, would that bonus personally make you go and work in such a school? And 71% said no. That was interesting, I thought.
Yes, I think they have asked some similar questions in Teacher Tapp in the UK.
Yeah.
Some of them are maybe a bit more capitalistic than that in some of the answers.
Yeah, perhaps. Well, we followed up, of course, with a few days later with a question about teaching in certain schools. Does it require extra skills of teachers? Most of them said yes, absolutely. And we also said, what would be a reason for you to go and work? And some said, I need to feel that I can make a difference over there. Plus, I need smaller class size.
Excellent. Yeah, I think these are the kind of results that I love from the app. So the government would be better to improve the quality of the job, not to pay teachers more.
Yep.
Excellent. Can I ask how you found out about Teacher Tapp in the first place? How did you learn about it?
On Twitter, I think. I'm a huge Twitter fan. I tweet all the time. Most people ask how I can get any work done with the amounts of tweets.
But sometimes it turns into free work, doesn't it? That's what I find.
Yep. And well, I'm a teacher educator with also a special profile aimed at ICT and education. So I feel it's part of my job to be involved in things in ICT and education as well. So I saw it on Twitter. I think that's, and then I started to follow, and I looked at the website, and a few years ago I thought it would be great if we could have a Dutch version. So I already contacted Becky at that time, but I did not have the funding at that time. And when I was writing a new research proposal, I kind of wrote Teacher Tapp in the proposal. I said we need to have Teacher Tapp as a building block for our research, and that's why we have Teacher Tapp now for at least 3 years in the Netherlands.
So what is the plan for Teacher Tapp in the Netherlands? More users, I guess.
More users, making sure we have well, we aim at primary, secondary, and vocational education. And at the moment, I think we have more users in primary education. So a step would be upping the users, but also making sure that we have enough users in all of our groups and all of our regions. And I think my most important goal is also to find the users that are not on Twitter. So to make sure that the people who are using it will go to their colleagues and say, please download it and use it as well. And to make sure that Teacher Tapp can become something that they talk about during lunch every day. That's, I think, my main goal. Of course, having a lot of users is great, but making sure that it helps the actual teachers in schools is more important.
And I guess that the primary difficulty in we could not just copy the app from the UK to the Netherlands because the questions would all be in English. Mm-hmm. What other challenges have there been apart from that, or has it been quite easy?
No, translating is one, but you have things like head teachers, and we don't have things like head teachers. So it's trying to use the right concepts, and then so it's not just about translating. It's also a different structure in education as well.
Yes, and I know that in Teacher Tapp, even within the UK, they have some fun feedback because Scotland has a different education system to England. So they ask a lot of questions, and the language is obviously understandable, but the question is meaningless.
Yes.
So can I ask a bit more widely about technology in education? As part of this conference, we are talking to a lot of people in the Netherlands and in the UK and in the USA about how they think technology will change work, how it will change socializing. We have not heard anything about how people think technology will change education.
Mm-hmm. In this conference, you mean, or in general?
In this conference, just in this conference. We are mostly technology users and developers, not education specialists.
Yeah, well, there are a lot of people that say technology will change education in a huge way, but they've been saying that for I think about 10 years, and indeed you haven't seen a lot of big changes in actual teaching or education. Yes, people use apps, but a lot of time it's what we call substitution. So you do on your computer what you could also do using a paper and a pencil, and I think that's not the way we should look at technology in education. We should use technology to do things we can't do without technology, or to make it perhaps easier for some teachers to provide things like feedback or formative assessment. I think what we saw now in the last period, I think Teacher Tapp in the UK asked a question a few days ago about what would you keep from all this distant education the upcoming year when you go back to school. And I think the flexibility and the individual feedback is something that will stay. And I think because all the teachers were forced to use technology, they couldn't say no anymore. I think we will start using technology for purposes that go beyond what we already did in the classroom, and for really what's the English word, including everyone in our classrooms. So I think that's the biggest option right now, and upcoming option for technology. And it's not about making it fun, it's about helping the learning. And I think we have seen now what the difference is between making it fun and using technology to help people learn.
Excellent. Yeah, I think we have all learned a lot the last 3 months about technology. And also, I think we have learned how many of the things don't work. Things that we had built because we thought they might work don't work. And some things work that we didn't think would work.
Yeah, but it's often built from a designer's perspective and not from a teaching or learning perspective. What often happens is we have a designer that comes up with a great tool and then say, well, I've designed this, now go and use it. And then every teacher says, I'm not going to use it. If we involve teachers before you start designing and talk to teachers about their classroom activities and about learning, then you can design together with the teachers, and that would really upgrade EdTech, I think.
Fantastic. So last of all, Amber, if anybody is watching in the Netherlands, how can they download Teacher Tapp? and start using it?
They can go to the App Store or the Google Play and just download there is only one Teacher Tapp app. So it's
Perfect.
the same app as in the UK.
But if they are in Rotterdam, they will get Dutch questions, and if they are in London, they will get English questions.
Yes, after the update, and we're waiting for the update, and it should be in a few days, next week, and then from that moment on, if you say I'm in the Netherlands, then you get the Dutch questions.